Every year, thousands of retirees pay an extra penalty to the IRS, and almost none of them see it coming. Because what catches them off guard is it's not a penalty for owing too much. You can do everything right, claim Social Security at exactly the right age, run picture-perfect Roth conversions, manage your withdrawals right down to the dollar, and still open your mailbox to a letter from the IRS charging you extra. Because this penalty has nothing to do with how much tax you owe, it's about when you paid your taxes. And most retirees have no idea that they're even exposed to it until they get that letter from the IRS. Now, here's the one that makes this sting. It's not based on a flat fee, it's based on interest. And as you know, interest rates have been going up. The IRS ties this penalty to the broader economy, so it rises and falls along with interest rates. And it has swung pretty wildly in the last several years. Not long ago, it was as low as 3%, but more recently it has climbed closer to 8%. And if we go all the way back to the high inflation years of the 80s, it was a staggering 20%. And here's why this lands on retirees harder than any other group. During your working years, you just never really had to think about taxes. Withholding came out of every paycheck and it was just automatic and systemized like clockwork. But in retirement, we don't have that steady paycheck anymore. Our retirement could be lumpy and unpredictable. We've got a required distribution over here and a Roth conversion over here and capital gains and Social Security, right? The list goes on. And that lumpiness is exactly what trips up retirees and gets us penalties. Now, here's the good news. You are not stuck paying these penalties. There are quite a few clean, totally legal ways to stay out of the way of this penalty, and the right one, of course, depends on your situation. So today I'm going to walk you through 5 of them and show you exactly which type of retiree I think each of these strategies is built for. If you're new to the channel, my name is Ben Brandt. I've been a financial advisor for almost 20 years, and I want to help make your retirement even better. Now, before we dive in, I want to give credit where credit's due. The framework for today's video is inspired by a great piece from Cheryl Rowling. She's a CPA over at Morningstar. And I've reworked the content to be more retiree specific, but she laid the groundwork. So I'll drop a link to her original article down in the description. All right, rule number 1. It's the simplest, and it's what I call the steady retiree. So picture a couple, we'll call them Jim and Pam. Jim spent 30 years at the same job, and he walked away with a fantastic pension. Add in their 2 Social Security checks and a modest withdrawal from their IRA, and their income looks about the same in January as it does in December. Year over year, very little change. Now, for a retiree like that, the IRS hands you the most straightforward path of all. The basic rule is if you pay at least 90% of what you'll actually owe this year, well, you're protected, no underpayment penalty. And when your income is predictable, well, that 90% target isn't just a guess. Jim and Pam know within probably $100 what they'll owe because next year looks exactly like the same as last year. But here's the best part. Jim and Pam probably never need to write a single quarterly estimate check. Jim and Pam can simply have federal taxes withheld directly from their pension. There's a form for it. It's called the W-4P, and you can have taxes withheld directly from your Social Security too. We use form W-4V. So Jim and Pam can just dial in that withholding on those 2 income sources and cover their entire tax bill. It comes out automatically a little bit each time, just like your paycheck did during your working years. So we can ignore our quarterly deadlines, and there's really nothing to remember or even any envelopes to mail. So if your income is steady and predictable, this is probably the move for you. Set your withholding once, cover the year, and then forget about it. Embrace your inner Ron Popeil and set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it.
But what if your income this year is anything but predictable? Well, that's rule number 2. That's for a big year retiree. Now let's meet Cindy. She's 63, she's single, and she's got about $1.8 million, almost all of it sitting in her traditional IRA. This year, Cindy's being aggressive, and she's doing a big Roth conversion of over $100,000 because she wants to get ahead of the required distributions that are coming for her down the road. Oftentimes a smart move, but it means her income this year is going to be way, way higher than last year, than a normal year. And honestly, she's not even sure of the exact final number yet because it depends on where her investments land and how much she ultimately converts. So for Cindy, the 90% of this year that worked for Jim and Pam is kind of useless because Cindy has a moving target. So what she does instead is she ignores the chaos of this year completely and she looks backwards at last year's tax return. That's a number that we already know and it's locked in. And the rule that she's going to follow is this. If you pay 110% of what you owed last year, then you're golden. It doesn't matter how big this year eventually gets. You could convert $200,000. You could sell a business. You could win it big on pull tabs. As long as you've paid 110% of last year's tax, the IRS can't hit you with an underpayment penalty. Now, one detail for your specific situation, you might have heard this as 100% of last year's bill. And that's true if your income is more modest. But for higher income earners, and if you're doing 6-figure conversions, this is you, that number is going to bump up to 110%. So our 3 numbers are 90%, 100%, 110%. So the dividing line is adjusted gross income over $150,000. Above that, plan on 110%. So interestingly, that $150,000 is the same whether you're married or single. The only time it changes is if you're married filing separately, and then it's $75,000. So this is a good option if you've got an unpredictable year. You give up a little bit of precision, but what you buy back is some peace of mind. Now, rule number 3 is for the late income retiree. And this one involves an IRS form that I think most people don't know exists, which means a lot of retirees, they just leave money on the table for no good reason. So meet Jack and Diane. For years, they owned a little lake cabin, and this past October, they finally sold it and walked away with a nice big capital gain. But here's the problem. For the first 9 months of the year, their income was normal, and then in the fourth quarter, boom, we've got this big tax spike all at once. Now, the IRS's default opinion, or their default assumption, is that you earned all of your money in 4 equal pieces across the year. So it expects 4 equal payments starting in April. But that's not really what happened to Jack and Diane. They didn't have that money in the spring. It showed up when they sold their lake house in October. So this is where that form comes in. It's called Form 2210, and it's tucked inside of what's called Schedule AI. Now, that doesn't mean ChatGPT is going to prepare your return. This form is called the annualized income installment method. Now, what that mouthful actually means for you is it lets Jack and Diane raise their hand and say, now hold on, we didn't owe this tax back in the spring. The income really didn't exist yet. It arrived in the fall. You report your income period by period to prove that it came in late. And when you do, the penalty that the IRS wanted to charge you for those early quarters, when you hadn't yet earned that gain, that can shrink dramatically or just can disappear altogether. Now, this isn't just for home sales. Remember that late year Roth conversion that Cindy was doing? Well, the smart way to convert is late in the year in November and December when you can see your whole tax picture for the year. Well, that means all of that conversion, almost all that income, lands in the final stretch of the year. Well, Schedule AI is what lets you match the tax to that timing. So instead of getting penalized for underpaying way back in the spring when that conversion hasn't even happened, we figured that out at the end of the year using that form. I will say that there's a bit of a catch. The periods on this form are not perfect calendar quarters. They end in March, May, August, and December, and you essentially recalculate your tax for each one. So it is kind of a bit of homework. So what I would tell you to do is I would let your tax software figure it out or your tax preparer handle the actual form. But you have to know that the form exists to ask for it. So I guess that's the whole point of including it on this list. Real quick, before we get into my favorite rule, and this is a rule that I think is kind of custom built for retirees, if this kind of content is something you'd like to see more of, you should check out my free weekly newsletter called This Week in Retirement. Every Thursday, I find content from my favorite retirement creators and Roger Whitney. The link is in the description. Now, rule number 4 is my personal favorite. Like I mentioned, if there's any rule that's custom built for retirees, it's this one. And I think once you absorb this rule, you'll probably never write another quarterly estimate check again. And it comes down to a quirk in how the tax code treats 2 different ways of paying the IRS. And again, I think this rule is pretty remarkable. When you send in an estimated payment, it's credited the day you pay it. So if you pay late, well, the IRS knows you paid late, and the penalty for those earlier quarters is already locked in. You really can't undo it with one big check in December as a quarterly estimate. But withholding is different. Withholding is treated as if it were equally paid evenly throughout the year, no matter when you actually ended up paying it. The IRS doesn't ask what month it happened. It just by law assumes it was dripped in steadily all 12 months of the year, even if every dollar of that payment came the last week in December. So I'll show you what it means with an example. Meet Pat. She's 73 and she's taken her required distributions now. So picture this. It's November and Pat realizes that she has significantly underpaid for the year, maybe because it's a miscalculation or a mutual fund kicked off a surprise capital gain at the end of the year. Under the old way of thinking, she's kind of stuck. But here's the move that Pat's going to do. She's going to make a tax-only distribution from her IRA in December. So she simply cranks up her withholding on her year-end required distribution, or she sends a big chunk as a 100% distribution all towards taxes. She sends it right to the IRS through withholding. So even though that money leaves her account just in that last part of the year, the IRS treats it as if she had been paying steadily since January, and then it retroactively erases the underpayment for the entire year. So really think about how powerful this is. Pat doesn't even need to bother with quarterly estimated payments at all. She can let her modified required distribution at the end of the year or a special withholding for only tax distribution. She can let that do all the heavy lifting and then set the withholding high enough in December where one single tax move just covers everything she did for the entire year. Everything's credited equally, no penalty. Now, one hard rule, and you've got to consider this because this is very important. You've got to be over 59 and a half for this to work. If you're younger and you withhold from an IRA distribution, the IRS treats that withheld amount as an early withdrawal, and you're going to get smacked with a 10% penalty, which of course completely defeats the purpose of what we're talking about here. But if you're past 59 and a half, this tool is wide open. And here's a bonus for the detail-oriented folks among you that like to sort of game the tax system a little bit. If you know you're going to owe a big bill, you can leave that tax money invested in your IRA, earning interest in your money market all year long, and only send it in through withholding in December. So instead of mailing it off to the IRS back in the spring and losing all that growth, you keep it working for you for an extra 8, 9, 10 months. On a big tax bill, that sneaky little move can put a few hundred or maybe even a few $1,000s right back in your pocket. Same tax paid, just, more careful timing. So we did this recently for a client that purchased a house using IRA money. They didn't want to have a mortgage in retirement and they had lots of extra IRA money. So we made a huge IRA distribution early in the year for the house, and we didn't withhold any taxes at the time or pay any quarterly estimates. At the end of the year, we did a distribution for 110% of last year's taxes, and we sent that entire distribution as a withholding, avoiding all penalties and interest. And she made a few $1,000 risk-free because that money sat in her money market account for several more months, and then we paid the rest of the bill in April. Again, reminder, she was definitely over 59 and a half. Now here's the thing. Each of these rules on their own are pretty simple, but in a real retirement, they don't show up one at a time and kind of wait their turn. They'll have the big conversion and the home sale and all the required distributions all interacting all throughout the year. And honestly, one wrong move can cancel out several correct moves. So knowing which lever to pull and when, well, that's exactly the kind of coordination we build into our retiree blueprint for our clients. So if you'd like us to look at your specific situation and map it out, we've got a link in the description. You can book a call with me directly. Which brings me to rule number 5. And this is the one I want to be totally straight with you because you are not going to like this rule. But under the rare circumstances, it could be a good fit. So I've got to cover it. And the rule is this. Sometimes the right move is to just pay the penalty on purpose. We just hold our nose and we pay the penalty. Now, I know exactly how this sounds. Not the best. A financial advisor is telling me to intentionally do bad planning, but try to stick with me. I think there's a point. Meet Hank and Peggy. They're having a very bad year in the market. Stocks are down bad. And the only way for them to make a big tax payment right now would be to sell investments at a loss to raise the cash. That's exactly the kind of move that can wreck a retirement, selling good investments at the bottom just to satisfy an IRS deadline, right? We don't like that. So in this example, they're also right up against the next IRMA bracket. That's that special income-based bracket for Medicare. And if you're $1 over, you pay more for Medicare, sometimes a lot more. So here's the equation we want to think about. We've got to pay a penalty. So we compare penalty A to additional tax B. And the decision is probably going to be based on what interest rates are at the moment. So right now, the penalty is between 6 and 7%, which is kind of high. That math usually doesn't work in your favor to intentionally pay the penalty, but it is something to be aware of because we could find ourselves in a situation like we did back in 2020 or 2021 when that penalty was closer down to something like 3%. At 3%, the math looks totally different than the math at 7%. So when we compare that 3% penalty to something like how much more IRMA am I going to pay next year? If that math works out, well, then we just pay the penalty and skip the IRMA charge. We just do the math in advance, and sometimes we hold our nose and pay the penalty. But there's a deeper principle here, and it's just pure retirement planning. Don't let a small manageable penalty force you into a bad decision, like dumping stocks at a downturn or unintentionally violating whatever IRMA bracket that is. Sometimes absorbing a modest interest charge is simply just the more disciplined thing to do because protecting your portfolio, protecting your income is worth a lot more than just dodging what might be a small fee. We got to know what the fee is, of course, in advance. The penalty isn't always the enemy. Sometimes it's just the cheapest option on the table, and we pick the cheaper option. So next time the pay-as-you-go system feels like it's working against you, just remember you've now got 5 different ways to stay ahead of it. Thanks for watching.